Welcome to Sewing for a Living tutorials, where I share different sewing techniques and how I like to make some of the most common alterations and repairments. In this video I'm going to show you how to add belt loops to a dress, a skirt, pants, jeans or any other sewing project that you might have on your sewing table right now. So let's begin.
To make the belt loops, cut a longer vertical piece of fabric. For example, if you want to put 5 belt loops, 2 inches each, cut the string at least 15 inches long so that you have the length plus 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance on each side. The width of the string depends on the width of the belt loops you want to make. It should be twice the width of the finished belt loop plus seam allowances on both sides. Fold the fabric in half, wrong sides together, and press it all the way down. Fold and press the seam allowance in. I want my belt loops to be 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter wide, so the seam allowance is going all the way to the middle fold. Pin all the way down. Sew the belt loop with 2 parallel stitches. I like to do this on the cover stitch machine. You can also use a twin needle. This way you are going to sew the belt loop with only one seam. In this example, I'm going to use the regular straight stitch. First, I'm going to make the outer seam. This fixes the edges in place and I don't have to rip the seams if the seam allowance gets twisted or a bit out. Then make the second stitch line. Be careful to make it parallel to the first and also at the same distance of the edge. It starts to look like the actual thing already. Now let's sew them to the dress. I'm going to put just 2 belt loops at both side seams at the level of the waistline seam. I eyeball the size of the belt loops because in my case it doesn't matter that much. If you are adding belt loops to the waistband, you should measure the size of the band and cut the belt loops accordingly and add the seam allowance. Cut the edge of the belt loop string so that you start with straight edges. Once I'm happy with the size of my belt loop, I'm going to use it as a pattern for the others. I'm going to measure the middle of my belt loop because I want it to match the waistline seam. If you are making belt loops for a waistband, you can skip this step. Next, put the seam allowance under and flip the belt loop over. I do this to mark the right position. You don't need to do all this if the belt loops are to be put on a waistband. Then sew it in place. Flip it over again and tuck the seam allowance under. Be careful to put it straight. This time sew on the face side. And here it is. It shouldn't be too tight or too loose. There should be just enough space to insert a belt in. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more sewing and DIY videos, and I'll see you next time.